Hey guys, this is Minnie here, and today we're going to be talking about what commander skills you should be taking on the American Heavy Cruiser line. As always, for the purpose of these videos, I'll be previewing it on the tier 10 ship because you should be building your commanders towards the highest tier ship in the line, and that for the American Heavy Cruisers is, of course, the Des Moines. Excellent ship, still highly used in competitive, though in clan brawls and ranked it does suffer now from an especially higher chance of getting absolutely hammered by a CV with the introduction of the AP rockets on the German line, but it's still an absolute powerhouse when played well and well worth having in your arsenal of ships. Now, with my ship, we're going to walk through the points I take and why, as always. I currently have 20 points, and I'll explain where those last 3 points are going to go when we finish. But first off, your first point should always go into incoming fire alert. I cannot stress this enough. I love incoming fire alert. I find it to be a better priority target for half the cost. And once again, I probably know how many ships are aiming at me. Knowing when they're shooting at me is far more useful, especially when I'm not tied in against an island and I'm trying to play more of a kiting Des Moines. I love tying in against an island with the Des Moines and just sitting there and lobbing shells at a target while giving it only my bow, but as always, that's not always something you can do. So having the incoming fire alert to warn you about those 24-kilometer Thunderer shells that are flying at your broadside, always worth it. The other skill I take at tier 1 is Grease the Gears. Main battery traverse speed, 15% bonus is really nice, drops it down to 30 seconds on the 180-degree turn time, which helps when your maneuverability is a 770-meter turning circle and it's an 8.6-second rudder shift time. Now, gun feeder, I don't find to be worth it. On my Des Moines with the reload mod, because I take reload over range personally, though I've run both, I just personal preference. 4.8-second reload time, so 1 point to change it to a 2.4-second reload time is nice, but it's not really going to affect you like it is on a battleship or an Italian cruiser when you would be to see a DD. Even if I get rid of that and go back the reload mod and go up to the 5.5 seconds, and then you have the increased range still. 2.75 seconds decrease in time for one shell. It's not enough of a difference to be worth 1 point. And since the Des Moines is still best played as a bow tanking, island hugging cruiser, or even if you're not bow tanking, slowly backing up, or sorry, if you're not island playing, slowly backing up while bow tanking, I don't find Last Stand to be worth it. The ton of times that you're going to get your engine incapped while you're island hugging or bow tanking is slim to non existent. At the tier 2 level, I take Consumables Enhancement. Consumable Enhancement is absolutely worth it here because of the fact that you can use it for the surveillance radar alone, not to mention its other applicable use with hydroacoustic search. But for the surveillance radar, when I combo the 10% here with the surveillance radar coal module you put into slot 2 on the Des Moines, you get up to 52.8-second radar time on anything within 10 kilometers of you, which is absolutely hideous. Once again, you tie that in even without having gun feeder, and if you're on a range mod, you think 5.5 seconds per shot. Anything within 10 kilometers of you in a 52.8-second radar time is getting shot between 7 and 9 times at with your full salvos. So absolutely worth it and a must. Pyrotechnician is nice for the main battery HE shells getting the 1% chance to cause the fire, raises it from 14 to 15%, but for 2 points on a cruiser I can't justify it. It's not enough of a bonus to the ship to make it, because especially for battleships you can still hammer 3, 4, 5,000 damage salvos into the superstructure of the battleship with AP. And if you're going for the fire, yeah, it's nice to have that 1%, but it's not a big enough difference to be noticeable. Priority target we already talked about, and then expert AA marksman. With the island hugging meta, that puts you in a very hard position for any CV to hunt you. It will still happen, you will still get hunted, but it puts it in a very hard position. If you're playing more of a kiting, you might want to consider expert AA marksman, and honestly Last Stand for your remaining 3 points with this build, just so that you can be avoiding getting if you're playing a kiting out in the open water, just so you can avoid that and deal with the CVs. But with the advent of the Manfred von Richthofen, the MVR, and the AP rockets hitting the broadside, you're going to get hit even with priority sector AA damage being increased by 25% and the extra shell explosion. I'd rather put 2 points into other means of staying alive and increasing my damage output than that, because it's not like it's going to make a big difference in my eyes. At the tier 3 level, a lot of people like to say, hey, you should take the heavy HE. 10% increase of damage on HE shells is nice. Here's why I don't recommend it. It's only a 280 maximum HE shell damage increase, which admittedly you multiply that by 9 guns, means that you're a little under 2600, about 2600 more per salvo, which is a nice increase, but I don't think the concealment trade-off of going up to 12.5 kilometer detection, and even ignoring the air detection, but the 12.5 kilometer sea detection is worth it. Right now, when you don't run that with concealment, you've got a 10.9 kilometer detection and a 10 kilometer radar. So if you've been detected, there's a pretty good chance that you're still going to be able to catch it in the radar within 5 seconds. But if you increase it by adding in the heavy HE and sap shells, it's going to make it so that there's that 2.5 kilometer window where a DD can be sitting and not be detected and just be keeping you spotted for its battleships. So I don't find it worth that. Adrenaline Rush I find necessary. Like I said, as a cruiser, you're going to be bow tanking, you're going to be dealing with a lot of CVs coming in, so having that AA damage bump just that slight is a nice bonus. Once again, it's not going to stop the CVs from killing you if they're really determined to focus. That's just the nature of the game. And the main battery reload time, it's going to be a nice little bump as you get low to get out that extra damage and be able to go toe-to-toe with some of those battleships. One of the rare cases where I do agree actually with a fair amount of the recommended skills. Now, heavy AP shells is where my last 3 points is going, and here's why. Once again, you look at it, okay, it's 250 more on the AP shell damage, which when we multiply by 9 guns means that you're adding on another potential 2250 damage, if I did my math correctly. Yeah, 2250 damage per salvo of full guns. Or if you're only shooting your front 2 guns, you're adding on another 1500 damage potential. The reason, though, this is worth it to me for 3 points, and why I don't go for the expert AA marksman in the last stand, or the pyrotechnician, the gun feeder, or some combination of those remaining 2 and 1 point scales, is because of the Citadel potential. Because since the American cruisers, the heavy cruisers, have that super heavy AP already, that can Citadel battleships at decent range, adding on this is going to absolutely just melt down those battleships. Even if you have to hit the superstructure because they're angled, you're still getting a little bit more chunk. But on those citadels, it's going to be golden on those broadsides you get from cruisers or battleships, and that's why I take it. Superintendent is a must. Having that extra hydro, having that extra surveillance, having that extra heal allows you to stay in the fight longer, which on a cruiser is king. DPM and time alive is king on the cruiser, so absolutely need Superintendent. And I never see a reason to take Survivability Expert on a cruiser like this. You're not hurting for health. You're at 50,000 hit points, 50,600 hit points for a heavy cruiser. Yes, there's cruisers that have more than you, obviously, like Stalingrad or Puerto Rico, though those would be more, in my mind, classified as a super cruiser. But for 3,500 extra health, which takes you to 54,100, is not worth it in my mind. I think you get far better use out of having Superintendent and the heal you get there, as well as the Adrenaline Rush, so that you gain the speed as you get lower than you do out of Survivability Expert. On some of the lower health cruisers like Smolensk and such, yeah, Survivability Expert is really useful to make sure you're not getting dev struck as much. But on this one, I just can't justify it. That leaves us with the Tier 4. At Tier 4, Top Grade Gunner is a must. Top Grade Gunner is absolutely a must, even with the quick firing, in my opinion, because of the fact that while the secondary battery doesn't matter, when your ship's getting close, remember, that's within your detectability range. So my detectability range is 10.9, so it increases my main battery reload time as soon as we get going. And you notice, as you read it, it's the standard detectability, and the ship detectability is changed by firing main guns, fires on board, and other combat events that are not, sorry, it's not taken into account. So it does not matter there when you're getting fired on something. But the fact of the matter is, to go back to the point I was making, that when you have a DD come into your 10.9 kilometer range, or a cruiser come into your 10.9 kilometer range, you get that 8% bonus, which drops you on your reload once again from 4.8 seconds. That's dropping you down to 4.3 seconds or so, 4.3 seconds, which once again, we go back to that radar where you can radar. Okay, so now you've gone from in a 52.9 second salvo, or you've gone from 10, maybe 11 shots, you've gone to 12 to 13, and that can be the difference in killing a DD or a cruiser that's in smoke and not. Even if you were taking the range over the reload module in the ship's modules and it's a 5.5 second, still drops you down 8%, which is going to take you down to about 5 seconds flat, which gets you to that magic 10 salvos in your radar time. Now, and because it doesn't include the changes caused by firing main guns, fires, or other combat events, it allows you to know that it allows you to focus just on those ships that are close, and remember that. Now, Outnumbered is an interesting skill. More visible enemy ships than allies within the firing range of your ship's main battery. That's a tricky one on why to take and why not to take. I don't recommend taking it because most of the time you're going to be in force with a group, or you're not going to have a large range anyway. You're going to have the 15.6 kilometer range if you're running mine mode. So I don't see this as worthwhile because, yeah, the maximum dispersion decrease is nice and the ship speed buff is nice, but 4 points for a style that the Des Moines shouldn't be playing anyway because it should be bow tanking and island hugging more isn't worth it. I do and have in the past debated about RPF because radio location is definitely worth considering to have on a cruiser, but with the way they've changed it, I think that top grade gunner is worth more than having a bearing on the nearest ship. So that's why I don't take top grade gunner. If you don't think you need that extra time or that extra quickness on your shells, I'd say take our radio location over top grade gunner, but I like having that. Inertia fuse, there's no reason to ever take that on the American cruiser. There's just no reason to ever take that on the American heavy cruisers. Concealment expert is the king. Once again, like I said, you take that 10% decrease and you go from just about 12 kilometer detection to 10.9 kilometer detection, which once again gives you that very narrow window where DD can be sitting and not be radared. And then the last 4-point skill, which is AA Gunner, the continuous AA damage increase would be nice. I mean, that would buff this up to almost 460, 470. And then the damage from AA shell explosions would go from 1680 to just over 2000, just over 2000. But I don't think it's worth it on a Des Moines. I think you get far more bang for your buck by focusing on a damage build with your Des Moines than by focusing on an AA build for your Des Moines. Wooster is a different story, but not. Now, the order in which you're going to build these. First point goes incoming fire alert. Second and third point consumable enhancement. Third and fourth point, fourth, fifth, and sixth point superintendent. And then your 7th, 8th, ninth, and 10th point to concealment experts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I like to work it down, going back down. I like to go top grade gunner to get that extra activation, followed by adrenaline rush, followed by grease the gears, because grease the gears is useful if you have to pull out of the position, but it's not as critical, but it's a better 1-point skill in my opinion to have than taking gun feed or last stand for the style you're going to play. and then your last 3 points will go into the heavy AP shells because you're going to do good damage without, and rather than relying on the crutch of it, I think that taking that last just gives you a nice bonus to already having built a good playstyle. So just to review again: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's my Des Moines build. As always, if you have any questions, you can catch me on YouTube or on Twitch streaming most nights. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and have a great day. This is Minnie, signing off.